In this video, I'm going to show you how to use FotoDa Pro Beta. First thing you're going to want to do is go to this link, which will be in the description, and go ahead and enter your email. You'll only have to do this once unless you switch to another browser or a different machine. Now I have a choice to either load a folder or individual files. I'm going to go ahead and load a folder. Got some images from NASA here. So I've loaded up 70 images from NASA. I can hit the spacebar and it'll just regenerate. You can load a folder with thousands and thousands of images. It'll just take a moment to load them all in. Alternatively, I can use the spiral to regenerate. I can use the plus sign to add an additional layer. There's no real limit on how many layers I can add. I can use this rotation button to change the orientation. Using a scrolling gesture, I can zoom in and out, and I can pan this image around. If I hit space, that gets reset again. I can save the image by clicking this button. And then there's this more experimental button that's just going to turn on every single filter that's in FotoDa Pro. As a result, you can get some very, very strange, glitched out images. The gear icon gives us additional access to a bunch of settings. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the filters for the moment. And let's take a look at what's going on here. In this case, I've got 3 images that have been randomly combined. I have normal on the bottom, a screen blend mode on the second layer, and a difference blend mode on the third layer. I can change these to whatever I like. You'll also notice that there's this little timeline here that shows the progression of the generation of the image. This is useful if you happen to see a state of the image that you like as it's being generated and you want to go back to it. So I can go here or here. We also have unlimited undos, so I can go, just by clicking this icon here, I can go all the way back and see every single thing that we've seen during this entire presentation. I can go ahead and jump into full screen mode like that. Generate a few more images. Now our rotation button is down here. We have these little helper zoom in and out buttons. We have a reset to show the whole canvas. I can still pan this around. Now, right now I'm generating between 2 and 6 images in combination, but I can go up to something really high, like 30 or even 200 if I wanted to. There's no limit currently. I'm going to go ahead and generate a couple. Now, let's say there was an image in here I didn't want to include anymore. I can just close it out. If I want to add another new image on top, I can just click this button. And again, as many times as I want. This button replaces the topmost layer, so it'll delete the top layer and then add a new one. This little tree icon is one of the more useful things. What it'll do is keep all the current images, but then reset the blend modes. So if you get a really nice image combination, but you want to experiment, you can just continuously click this little branch icon. Now, one of the more experimental features here is this connection to the stock images from Pixabay. And this is interesting. There's currently no way to search a specific image. That'll probably happen in the next couple days, really. But at the moment, it just chooses a random word. In this case, it chose utility. And it's grabbed a bunch of images randomly from Pixabay. hitting spacebar again is going to grab more images with the keyword utility. Go ahead and do it again. That doesn't look so great, but let's just hit the branch icon and see if we can recombine those same images in a different way that does look good. And it's just really fast. You can just click it again and again and again and again until you get something you like. In this case, like I can see this is bluish, but it had more color back here. I can see the entire state and how they all combined. Go back one step and there we go. Let's see here. Let's click the Pixabay button again. Insomnia is our search term. And let's say we really liked that one. I can go ahead and save it. Additionally, just as a little experiment, I've got this gallery in here where there's some stuff. It just shows the last 1,000 things that have been submitted. I can click this arrow button and add the current image to the gallery. I'll call it Spiral by Z, and I'll just save it. It takes a second and says your image has been saved. It doesn't immediately load up here, but if you come back to it, it will show up. Just one of those little fine-tuning things that it probably should just jump right in there and show up, but this is a beta after all. If you click one of these, you can see it in full size. Similarly, if you want to kind of zoom in on one of your layers, you can click and see it in full size. Well, that's a very strange picture. All right. So let's go back and just load up some individual files rather than an entire folder. Let's see here. Let's load up just a few old images from a long time ago from my camera. Oops. Okay, let's go back to full screen. Unfortunately, when you're in Chrome, it kind of jumps out of full screen when you try to load images. There will be an Electron version of the app that'll just, you won't be inside Chrome. It'll just be like a regular old desktop app. Let's go ahead and get something we enjoy here. That looks pretty cool. Normally I would just save that actually because I like it, but I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple more layers. Rotate it. And I can click on this Edit tab if I want to kind of finish up my image by using like brightness and contrast, adjusting saturation. I can crop the image by clicking on this little crop button here. And it'll say, do you want to crop? And I can say yes. I can lock a specific size. Now everything will always be just 500 by 500 pixels. I'll turn that off. And now I'm going to show you something a little bit more complex. I can select from all of these filters one by one, and there will be many more of these added over the course of the beta. I tried to choose filters that were just unusual, things that I created that aren't commonly found in other graphics programs. For instance, there's this one called P-Bokeh, which is kind of like a messed up bokeh blur, if you know what that is. And I can drag this minimum radius slider around and get a little preview, and this is the maximum. So if I choose something like this and something like really high like this, it's going to be a very strong effect. So this value goes as a radius from 0 to 20. Those values aren't super important. And you'll see it doesn't get applied all the time. There's this value here, 0.3, which says for every layer that gets added, there's a 30% chance that it's going to get this filter. And so we can, wow, that looks great. And so we can really I'm going to save that. We can really get a sense of what this looks like by significantly reducing the number of images. We could even go down to one image if we wanted to. And we can, that actually got it. So like this is the original, and then this is with the P-bokeh filter. And I can increase my probability that it's going to be used like to, let's say like 80%. My min and max look good. But we want a really high min for just to demo this filter. Now I'm going to increase to like 5 images and just watch how they get combined. And you'll notice where P-bokeh gets applied, you can see it here. So this one's lightened and P-bokeh. This one's just different. It's got no filter on it. I'm going to trash that layer. And we can see this crazy blown out image that P-bokeh has generated. And so all these filters pretty much work the same way. They have a probability and maybe a variable or two to adjust. Let's go ahead and try dot grid, which is pretty self-explanatory. You can see it'll just kind of generate these dots out of your image, and you can choose a minimum and maximum size for those dots. These numbers here are pretty arbitrary. I'll probably adjust that so it makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to increase the probability of this to be nice and high so that we can see it. There we go. We saw some dots and then they kind of got erased, so I can step back in time and see what happened. So it's that initial image that got the dot grid effect. Then this one got a P-bokeh. And this got a P-bokeh as well. Pretty cool little graphic that then gets completely changed. So all these filters can do a variety of things. Like this one, for instance, is normal map. It just does a normal map. Zoom in so you can see. It does look kind of weird, but when they combine properly with some blend modes, it can be pretty great. So there's a setting to remove all these, or you can remove them individually. And there's another setting to add all of them, which is what I'm going to do. And the more extreme ones have a pretty low probability by default. But our old probabilities are there, so I'm going to bring down, I'll make it 50% dot grid. I'll make it like 40%, 30% P-bokeh. And let's just generate a few and see what we get. Oh, let's go back. Oh, there's the normal map. And here we have this kind of classic glitch distortion, which is just like a stretch. Let's take a look at that one, stretch H. So stretching horizontally, you can stretch the image like so, minimum and maximum value. Classic glitch artifact. With everything on, you can get some really strange stuff. Having a little bit less is probably better, but for the purposes of just showing what FotoDa Pro is like, I think this is good. Or if you're just trying to get inspiration, turning them all on can be pretty cool. This one has an interesting feel to it, so I can just start adding some additional images. See what happens. Yeah, dots are definitely way too high right now. Let's go ahead and bring those down. There's a lot of filters here, so if you want to just get to one, you can just reselect it here. So if I say dot grid, it's just going to bring me right to it. And let's turn down the probability on that. Only 2 images, so I'll go ahead and add a few. It is kind of fun to just sit there and add and add and add like that and see what you get. And when you don't like something, you can just trash it, or you can use this one that just adds a new one and deletes the old one, add a new one, and delete the old one just on the topmost layer. If I want to go back to the original state of the entire session, I can click Reset Everything. And there we go. Apparently that was the first image that we generated. That's pretty much where things stand at the moment. I can click this little arrow to go back into that initial mode. This does work okay on mobile currently, so you can try it on your phone. For release, when this goes to the public, it will be on the phone in some shape or form. And yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to show up on the App Store or if it even will at this point. I've just had a little bit of, I just get annoyed by the Apple Store in general, unfortunately. It'd be great to just keep this off the Apple Store as much as possible. All right, so let's load up some of these old images here. You can see it basically works the same way. The biggest issue in mobile is just sort of the size of these buttons, the size of the user interface, and all that kind of stuff. And there are some notes about that in the forum. But feel free to try it on your phone. Just don't expect it to work all that well. It is usable though. So FotoDa Alpha. As you're using this, I've created this forum here for us to chat. You can introduce yourself. I'm going to put some information on how to get started, including this video. We can report bugs here. In the sort of initial phase, there's no real template for how you want to report those. Things that I'm aware of, I'll be placing here just so that if you encounter something, you see that it's here, you'll know that it's on my radar. Feature requests, this is pretty cool. There are these little, you can basically put any idea you want, and then anybody who's on the beta can upvote or downvote the idea. Things that get a lot of upvotes, I'll seriously consider including inside FotoDa Pro. I believe that's it for now. I'll probably release a few more videos as things progress throughout the beta. And certainly updates are going to be coming pretty regularly with new filters and bug fixes, and something called generators that's in the pipeline, which will just generate random shapes and gradients and things like that. Okay, thanks for watching. Enjoy.